All right, hello. We are now jumping into our next section here. We're going to talk about methods, some different methods to study the Bible. A lot of them have the same ideas, but it's not rocket science, everybody. But I think there's going to be some good thoughts for everybody on how to read the Bible. So first of all, read the section that you're reading. Right, read the Bible. You might want to read it twice. Maybe if you're going to really want to study it a little bit more, read it twice. Like, let's say you're going to read a chapter, read that chapter twice, or just a couple of verses. Just kind of let it sink. Let it, let your heart think about it, and read through it twice. Maybe you've got some things you want to learn there. Another thing you want to do is outline it. Outline your paragraph. You might want to get a piece of paper, or you can do it on your notes app in your phone or computer or whatever. But like, do a paragraph outline. Like, give it a title, right? If you're reading a chapter of the book, give it a title. And then the next thing, you want to look at the key verse in whatever section you're reading about. Like, what is the key verse or the key word? And then give that chapter a title. What is the word that you're looking for? Outline the paragraph, and then give it a title, and then give it a word, a key verse, and a key word, right? The next thing you want to look for is observations, right? We're going to get into that in our next section, but you want to look at observation. What are you seeing there? What are you observing as you read this chapter? What are you seeing that stands out? What kinds of things are you reading here? Is it poetry? Is it a narrative? Is it a story? Is it a vision of the future? What is happening in the section that you're reading? Okay. Another thing you want to look for is how to interpret what you're getting into, the section that you're studying. What does it mean? What was the author trying to say to the person who would be reading it? Who were the readers that the author was talking to, right? And then finally, you're going to look for application. What are some things that I can apply as I read this scripture? What are some things that speak to me, give me some vision, give me some hope, give me some commands? What is it trying to tell me? So I want to give you an example, right? So we're going to go to John chapter 2, and it's called Drinking and Driving. I think it's John chapter 2. Let me get my Bible here. And let's see here. John chapter 2. So Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Is it chapter 2? Yes, it's chapter 2. The beginning of the chapter, he has a wedding. And so I gave it a title. Actually, this is from a friend of mine. He called it Drinking and Driving. And we're going to, as you get into it, you'll see what we're talking about here. And use alliteration if you want to. Like, I don't know, there's a famous quote about Baptists always wanted to use alliteration. So, but you don't have to be a Baptist to use alliteration. You could just be artistic, right? So John chapter 2, drinking and driving. This is how this, by the way, helps you memorize scriptures and chapters that you're reading. If you have a little funky thing to memorize it by, you'll go, okay, that's the chapter of drinking and driving. Well, why do we call it that? Well, when you read it, right, verses 1 through 11 are Jesus turning wine from water at the wedding, right? There's the W's again, alliteration. So that's the first part of the chapter. That whole first part of the chapter, 1 through 11, talks about Jesus turning water into wine at the wedding. So that's why it's the title for it was Drinking and Driving. And then in verse 12, Jesus goes out to Capernaum. So he leaves. And then in verses 13 through 22, this is where he whips the people at the temple. So that's why the driving part, right? Driving them out of the temple. So there's drinking and driving. That's the whole joke here. Not a joke, just alliteration to think about what it is you're reading. So this is an outline. This is an example of an outline. So wine from water at the wedding, 1 through 11, 12, going to Capernaum, 13 through 22, whipping at the temple, and then, oops, sorry, I went ahead too far. 23 through 25, the whipper knew all people. So you have this reality that Jesus was more than just a guy, a human. And so some of the thoughts there and the outline is in the key verse would be in 2:11, the beginning of his signs. Jesus did this in Cana of Galilee and manifested his glory, and his disciples believed in him. So this was like the first miracle that the disciples saw that made them really trust in Jesus. They saw him turn water into wine at a wedding. So that is the key verse that I picked for this. You do your own, right? This is just an example. And then the key word here in this chapter for me was signs, right? This is a sign. Jesus did signs. He did miracles. He did signs. And so that for me is the key word, signs. And then another method that people use is called the SOAP method, SOAP. And it's very similar. It is, you look at scripture, right? You read the scripture, and then after you read the scripture, you make an observation, right? You write down, what is it I learned? What did I see here? And we're going to have a whole section on observations coming up next, so don't worry about figuring that out right now. We're going to talk about that. And then after that, there's application, SOAP, scripture, observation, application. Like, what does it mean to me? Like, why should I do that? I remember when I was in high school, I was in a class, economics class, and Miss Parkell was our teacher, and we were horrible, man. She would go out of the class, and we would jump up on the tables and get clumps of paper, ball them up, and use the yardsticks to hit like we were golfing in her class. She hated us, and we loved her though. But anyway, Miss Parkell would always say in economics class, "Oh, that's fine, but what does that mean to me, the consumer?" Right? She would always ask questions about whatever we were studying. That's all fine and dandy and wonderful stuff to learn, but what does it mean to me, the consumer? And that's what application does. It goes, well, okay, that's great when I read that. What does that mean to me? How do I live that out? How can I make that real in my life? And then finally, a closing prayer, SOAP, scripture, observations, applications, and then prayer. How can I pray? How can I live this out? How can I make this real in my life? Jesus, help me to do this. Help me to obey. Help me to hear your word. Help me to be obedient. So that's the SOAP method. And then the last method I want to talk about is called the 3-column method. And it's very similar to all the other ones, right? The first one was the outlining method. The second one was the SOAP method. And this third one is the 3 columns method, right? And let me show you an example there. So here you have 2 Timothy 3:16 and 17. It says, all scripture is inspired by God and profitable for teaching, for reproof, for correction, for training, and adequate, helping the man of God be adequate, equipped for every good deed. So that's what 2 Timothy 3:16 and 17 says. So on the first column there, you write down what the scripture is, right? You write all, and scripture, and inspired, and by God, right? And then you make observations about it, right? Like, what does all mean? What is scripture? Is it the Bible? Is it something that somebody said? What is scripture? How much of it? All of it? A little bit of it? And then what does it say about where scripture comes from? Well, its source is God. It's inspired by God. It's not just a human invention. It's not just some guys under a tree, doing drugs or whatever, and they thought this was a cool idea. No. This is God. God wrote the scripture, and it's what's it there for? Well, what should I know? What is it trying to teach me? What is the scripture trying to show me? It shows me where I'm wrong, right? For teaching, for reproof, like showing me wrongness, training me to make me adequate, equipped for every good deed. And then there's questions, right? So what does reprove mean? What does it mean to reprove? It's profitable for reproof. What does that mean? What does it mean to get correction? Correction from what? What do I need to be corrected about? Like, what is a man of God? What does it even mean to be a man of God? So there you go. We've got some simple methods of studying the scriptures. You're going to look at different methods. And another thing you could do, on your phone, you can get a Bible app called the Bible. It's called the Bible app. And it will give you tons of reading plans. It'll give you ideas. It'll even have different methods of studying that you can use. I just gave you a couple. I gave you the outlining method, I gave you the SOAP method, and then I gave you the 3-column method. They're all very similar. They're all going to help you. Okay, next section we're going to talk about is getting into some observations. How do you make observations of what you're reading? This is a really fun practical section. We'll see you at the next section. All right, bye-bye.